So you want to know the dirty truth about how YouTubers make their money, huh? Don't worry, little one. I'm here to guide you. GunTube is a unique and complicated place to be. You're dealing with psyops, shills, grown men playing dress up. It's a weird place to be, all right? I think we can all agree about that. But you know what? We celebrate weird things. Much like the LGBTQI community, we're diverse in our eclecticness, okay? But you know what every man has in common? The need for money, the need for compensation, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about today. The dirty truth behind how GunTubers make their money. So buckle up, put that strap in that was the correct thing to say. So strap in, let me take you through this experience. So why should you listen to me, a random GunTuber on the internet? Well, it's because I have an OGL and you don't. So neener, suck a giant wiener. Well, I've got close to a decade experience in marketing, did a lot of partnerships in my deal. I've worked for quite a few brands in this space directly, and I've helped a few channels get to where they're at, let's just say, in and outside of GunTube. So I've done car channels, I had a personal car channel, I've done quite a few productions in my day, filmed for quite a few YouTubers, both again in and out of the gun space. Working as a creative director, I've overseen some contracts and deals in the sports marketing space as well. So I have a little bit of an insider baseball into how people come up with the numbers, how it makes sense, and what a business sees, what a creator sees. And on top of all of that, my wife has a channel. You might have probably known her. You've seen a couple things about her. But yeah, I've got a little bit of insider baseball knowledge here that I don't think a lot of people get to see in the day of light in the spaces of GunTube. So let's talk about my motives. Well, I feel like this GunTube space is a little misunderstood, a little downplayed, a little sugar-coated because people don't like to get into the nuances. But I think it's actually fair for everyone to know, how do YouTubers make money? How do GunTubers make money, right? I believe that other industries benefit from transparency and clarity, and YouTube is a little bit of a mystery because nobody really likes to talk about these subjects. But I feel like we shouldn't shy away from this, and transparency and honesty obviously brings a level of clarity for you guys, right? So let's talk about this. You guys don't pay for the videos you watch. You didn't pay for this. So how do we, as educators, entertainers, or whatever you want to call it, OnlyFansers for you special privileged people, how do we generate income and a living off of doing this? Well, I'll first say that not all channels are made the same, and not all channels cost the same, okay? For example, the cost of production for us is time, because I'm a creative producer. I've got all the equipment. I spent $30,000 acquiring my own equipment. So what does this cost us to run? Well, if you axe out the $30,000 worth of equipment, it just costs us 30 hours a week to produce an episode, right? I usually charge about $150 per hour for video production services. So 30 times 150, that's the opportunity cost of what it theoretically costs me to produce a video for YouTube, right? Obviously prices vary. There are some who cost $250. There are some who just charged a $1,500 day rate and call it good. Cost for video production varies drastically, and also, let's be honest, not all channels need it. Talking to you, Ben Stagers, you Stogers of the world, you Stoagers. But let's just say the average YouTube video costs roughly $500 to produce, okay? Just averaging it out. It costs some sort of significant time, money, or something to produce a video that is going to be seen. I'm talking about the big players who aren't just vlogging themselves on the range, okay? Which I don't really think anyone's a big player who does that. A lot of these guys usually have a videographer of some sorts, right? So there is some cost tangibly to produce videos on YouTube. But you guys, again, don't pay for it. So how does this work, right? How does this theoretically work? How are creators able to make a living when the viewers don't really pay anything besides attention? And that's going to be key in a lot of this. Your attention is currency, okay? I think that's nothing new. People have been saying that for years. If you're not paying for a product, you are the product per se. You're either comfortable with that thought or you're not. That's a judgment you guys have to make. I'm not going to make it for you. But today I will show you how YouTubers make money. So that way it's clarity, it's transparency. You guys can understand a little bit about GunTube, okay? So I've got my trusty dusty notes over here. I'm not just looking at my OGL, although it is pretty. A little bit overpriced, but pretty nonetheless. All right, number one, YouTube. This is monetization. Remember when you see like an ad in front of a video, if you're premium, God bless, you must be in a different tax bracket. But if you're seeing ads in a video, well, typically YouTube's paying some sort of commission, not really commission, it's they're paying the creator to feature ads on their video. That's pretty self-explanatory. YouTube, a business comes to YouTube, says, hey, I want my business promoted in front of millions of people, and YouTube allocates their budget and their commercials to different creators who it may fit. Typically, these are catered towards you through spyware, malware, and other malicious intent. But again, we're not going to talk about that today. So leading us into our second point, how do creators make money? Well, sponsors. Sponsors directly reach out to creators and say, hey, I've got X product. I think it's going to resonate with your audience, blah, blah, blah. Here's some money. If it's a good creator or an ethical creator, they'll test the product at least before they start shilling it. But let's be honest, a lot of creators these days will just take the money, say the ad read in their video, bada bing, bada boom, paycheck in the bank. Okay, now number three, commercials. We're going to talk about these first three, by the way, later, because I want to define them a little bit better. But number three is commercials. I define commercials as anything with any video produced with the direct intent to sell a product or more than 50% intent to sell the product. I think that's defined as a commercial, but again, we'll get into that later. Number four, commissions. So these are links, codes, all that stuff. Beautiful, wonderful commissions. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you're a sales guy, you get paid on commissions. Product trade. Now, a lot of creators at the end of the year, after they've accumulated all their products, will sell them or sell them throughout the year. It's something that a lot of creators have participated in. I will say, me and Alyssa don't really sell any of our shit, which is a good thing because we try to build a library of firearms to be able to pull from in future videos. So we've referenced piston guns for a lot, and we've accumulated piston guns to be able to test and do a data sheet on, right? So not all creators who receive like products I would classify as compensation because it really doesn't lead into that. It just leads into something like us where it's just part of the collection and the reference base that we can use in future videos and concepts. But I will say about 90% of creators who receive product receive it as some sort of a compensation method where they have a plan or intent to sell it later down the road and receive actual money. Number six, production, marketing, consulting. Now, behind the scenes, what might happen, or it may be in front of the scenes, is a creator who has production capabilities, like me, will offer their services to other businesses and do things in the background like run their socials or help and consult with marketing or do video production, right? That is another way that creators make some money, or they use their production team like an outsourced agency for other businesses. That's pretty common. It's not just in this industry, in the automotive industry, it's pretty damn common. Not talked about though, which is ironic. I feel like it should be. All right, number seven, courses and training. Now, going back to one of my favorite drama channels, Ben Stoker. Ben Stoker isn't really a gun tuber. I would say he's an esteemed athlete who's been in the space and has an influence in the space and a trainer and all that other stuff. He's got tons of accolades outside of GunTube. I don't want to just kind of solidify him down into this niche, but he does do GunTube and participates, and he's kind of like the housewives of the GunTube, I'd say. You know, if your wife is into housewives, well, wait till she watches Ben Stoker's channel. But you know, these are courses, training. Think of Joe Farewell. If somebody's exceptional at shooting or has done exceptional things in the past, can spread that knowledge more directly in a classroom setting. That might be something that a creator offers for revenue, right? This could also be creative people. So I've seen creators offer their skill set in a digital course and teach people how to make productions or videos, that kind of stuff. So courses, training, there's a lot of white label. I think Grantham's doing like a freaking fitness thing. Cool. But that would fall under that category. Number eight, my favorite personally, because this is what I would like to do. Number eight is people use their channel like a marketing avenue for a separate business that they have. This I find to be the most exciting because you're actually providing multiple services, not just entertainment and education through videos, but you're providing a product and a service that people enjoy and that you can utilize your channel to market and grow. Think Lucas, boy, that's gonna be a hot take. Lucas with TRX Arms, or Lucas with the new business that he's developing. He takes his cachet, his persona, and moves it to another business to help it market and grow. Another good example that doesn't have controversy is Roger from QVO and Tier 1 Concealed, Jared back in the day. Funny holster brands. Interesting. Good shooters, great shooters, and great channels, so go check them out, but also great products. So that is something that I think is an overall win-win-win, kind of the best outcome if you're a creator on the channel, because then you're not relying on YouTube revenue. You're somewhat independent in that essence, and you're just relying on creating good content and videos, but not just diversification in funds, but diversification in value, which I think is super beneficial. If you're truly about the community, then you will try to do more things than just produce videos for the community, right? For example, me and my wife, we're ROs at our local range. We're big proponents on getting people into competition shooting. We have classes and courses that are free and stuff that we offer to friends and whatnot, just to get them into competition shooting the same way we got into competition shooting. And that's something that we do off camera. I wouldn't say it's a business, but something we are trying to develop more into and create a diversification in offerings. So number 8, separate company, separate business. Okay, number 9, community funded. This is Patreon, this is Subscribestar, whatever it is. This is YouTube Super Chats. This is anytime you are directly contributing funds to your favorite creator, this is community funding. So, you know, go figure. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 10, a little spicy, but it's whoredom. Enough said. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to focus on the top 3 because I believe they're the most misunderstood, or the first 3 rather, which is YouTube compensation, sponsorships, and commercials, okay? Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I feel like we've covered that and did bases. But the first 3 I want to touch on because, again, these are the things that I think a lot of people misunderstand. They start throwing out numbers out there and they're freaking crazy, and people think, oh, gun tubers are rich, which, yeah, some are, not gonna lie. But there's much more realistic data to go behind that. So let's talk about YouTube monetization. Now, in GunTube specifically, it is a toss-up whether you're going to be monetized. It literally is for some channels. Let's just, for easy use of numbers, I have seen the back end of a lot of channels. 50% of channels that I've seen are either really good and monetized, or the other 50% are horrible, and let's just say they receive half of the revenue that they should be getting, in my opinion. Now, for the sake of legalities and sake, I'm not going to name names or anything, and everything I say is speculative and generalized, so, you know, just keeping people safe here. So let's talk about that. So if you want to start a GunTube channel, and I'm going to pretend like you guys do, what can you expect from YouTube? Well, YouTube will set out some policies and guidelines, and they are very arbitrary. You will see some channels get away with it, absolutely completely scotch-free with no penalties, and that's fine. And then you'll see other channels who are completely blacklisted, shunned, and striked off the face of the earth. It is a mystery, the wonders of YouTube policies. But let's just say, for, again, simplistic sake, because I don't want to dwell on this topic too much, we want to talk about money. Let's just say it is a toss-up, it is a gamble sometimes. And there's a saying in YouTube space where you got to outgrow the censorship. We have talked directly to reps in YouTube. We have talked to big channels, and like I said, I've worked for a couple big channels in the day, and I've seen their policies. Well, again, hearsay, conjecture, whatever, but I've seen policies used as weapons, I'll say. More like weapons rather than policies, where they like to be vague and broad to be able to use their policies against people they don't like. Hearsay, subjective speech. That's my theories. Anyway, let's talk about how much do they make. Well, there's 3 things to think about in this equation. 1 is how many views your video gets, 2 is how long that video is, and 3 is the YouTube backend and if it determines your video is viable for advertising. Well, general advertising. There's like a general advertising and limited advertising, right? So let's start with how many views you get. Now, let's just, for simplicity, say you made a 10-minute video and it gets 100K views. You'll typically get around $500. Good job, you. You did so good. I'm so proud of you. Now remember, if you're hiring a videographer, your cost at a minimum is like $500, or at least the cost of time it made you to produce that video. So just kind of think about that. So you got 100K views on a 10-minute video. You're supposed to make $500, but let's say that video maybe had, I don't know, you hold the gun sideways, or you shoot an open range outdoors, and YouTube thinks that's a no-no because there's no Red Hat RO near you. Well, let's just say, well, for whatever reason it is, YouTube deems your video for limited ads, and now you're making 5% of what that video would have generated. And it's not because they're not going to run ads on your video. No, 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 no. They'll still run ads on your video, but guess what? They just decided that they're going to pay you less because you broke arbitrary rules set in place. So now, instead of YouTube paying you $500, they pay you $5 for 100,000 views. Ouch! Now, like I said, general numbers, most channels in the gun space deal with this. And it is like 50% of the uploads that happen sometimes, right? Some channels are worse, some channels are better, but let's just, for simplicity's sake, say it's worse. Now, if your channel's averaging 100K views, they upload once a week, it's almost $2,000 that they should be making, right? Per 500 per video times 4. Well, now because that's cut basically in half sometimes, they're making like $1,000 for what is considerably almost 120 hours worth of work, typically. Again, factoring maybe 30 to 20 hours of scripting, editing, and filming. But yeah, it's considerable amount of time and effort to produce a video that gets 100K views. Is $1,000 worth it, right? You could probably make more money just getting another job, or taking your creative talent and working for somebody and putting it behind advertising or some other revenue generating source. Now, this all sounds like YouTube is a horrible way of making money, but here's an X factor about YouTube. Videos last a long time, and oftentimes you're accumulating money over a period of a year after the video is produced. So let's say your video gets maybe 50K in 30 days, its lifetime over a year might be 400K, right? And the more and more you produce of those, the more it grows, kind of like a garden or a farm, right? Think of videos as property that you can plant seeds in. The more property you have, the more seeds you can plant, the more income you can rake in over time. So that's, again, a very simplistic way. I won't touch too much more on this, but just know compensation is a messy thing. In order to be full-time on YouTube and to be solely reliant on YouTube revenue, you have to be reaching about a couple 100,000 people per video and uploading a minimum of 4 times a month, right? Now, in order to hire somebody, let's say you have a team, a video and an editor, now you got to think about their salaries. Average video editor and photographer and videographer makes about, $5,000 a month. So that is a factor that you have to consider. You probably need to be making 400,000 views or such per video in order to compensate for their time if you're paying them, right? And again, this is rough numbers. Just know most of the major YouTubers in the space are hiring editors or videographers, at least on some degree. They may not be full-time, they may be contract, but there's still that cost to factor in there. Unless, again, you're self-sufficient and it's simplistic content, talking head stuff, and you own your equipment. So that solves that problem. Now let's go into sponsorships, and this is, again, a little bit of a hot topic. There's an ethical way of doing it and a non-ethical way, but I think we save that for another video. Let's just talk about the money. So I want you guys to understand why sponsorships are a big deal in the gun space. First of all, gun companies can't pay Meta or YouTube typically to advertise their products, unlike every other industry. Every other industry can utilize platforms like Meta, Google, YouTube to advertise their products for them. Gun companies, firearms companies, knife companies, some of these companies cannot do that. So what do they rely on? They rely on supporting channels to hopefully get their message out, right? Sponsoring channels, sponsoring events, sponsoring all this. Sponsorships are a huge part of the gun industry, more so than any other industry. I'll take automotive, for example, where the automotive industry would rather pay YouTube, Google. I've seen upwards of budgets of 100K per month going into these companies rather than creators, right? They would rather pay Meta or Facebook or whatever and shill them money to force their product onto your feed in an inorganic manner. Now, again, gun companies don't have the luxury of doing that, and so they have to get creative. But there's also companies that aren't gun companies that do sponsorship models, absolutely. Think NordVPN. We just did a mattress sponsorship because we were in the market for a mattress. Our mattress was freaking old. We're not as rich as some of you guys are. The wall makes us look rich. So anyway, a sponsor will come to a channel and look at the average rate for 1,000 views, or cost per 1,000 views. In marketing, there's a bunch of mumbo jumbo terms. It's like CPC, and you want to do cost per click, or the cost per purchase, you know, or cost to get to a landing page, and all this stuff. There's all these things you can do in advertising through Meta and Google, but you can't do that as well with influencer marketing. So basically, a company will say, okay, well, if I were to pay Meta to get in front of 1,000 people, how much would that cost? And it's typically about like $5 or something like that. They'll take that cost calculation, look at some of the creators and say, well, how much views are these creators getting? And if it's like $5 per 1,000 and this person has, you know, 100,000 views, well, let me do math by that. 1 second. Okay, they might pay them $500, right? So about the average of what I said YouTube was going to pay you. So back in the day, what channels used to do is they would charge on how many views they got after a 30-day period. So they would let the video grow, then send out an invoice to the sponsor and say, hey, my video after 30 days with your advertisement in it got 100K views. Here's a invoice for $500, or, you know, $5 per 1,000, right? That's not really how things are done these days. It's a smarter way of doing it, in my opinion. It's a way that I've done it with creators in the past. But most creators just do a blanket, here's the average our channel's getting. You buy 4 video packages, which is like you're placed in 4 videos or 3 videos or whatever. And then because their videos are averaging that, you'll typically get an average of whatever, 100K, 20K, whatever it is. So they would charge, let's say, $5 per 1,000. Now, when you look at it, sponsors have effectively doubled the income of what you can make on YouTube. Hooray! Woo! Yeah, that's awesome. And also, these things compound. So let's say you're not just at 100K, but you're at 200K. Well, that 200K jumps your sponsorship package to $1,000 and your potential YouTube revenue to $1,000. So congrats, you make $2,000 per 200K view videos. Congrats. Now, that's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like we touched on that enough. Let's talk about the last thing, and that's commercials. But commercials are basically when a company approaches X creator and says, I want to pay you to push X product and do it in however you want, right? So the creator will think, well, let's say I was approached by Rugged Suppressors on their new Axle suppressor. And now, because they want to pay me to push this suppressor, I have to come up with the concept for that video. That, I feel like, is a little disingenuous, okay, just a little bit. It becomes more natural when a creator is working on video concepts and approaches a brand or something like that and says, hey, I'm working on suppressors. Let's say, again, Rugged Axle. You know, yours has a girth of X amount, and I want to see if X amount of girth is better than, here we go. I want to see if your girth is better than this girth, or whatever the frick it is. Does suppressor girth matter, right? That is kind of a genuine question. Interesting enough, right? Harmless. And let's say, hey, we want to feature your products in that video. That's a little less offensive. Again, just using Rugged as an example. Love Rugged. We use a lot of their cans and shit, but we obviously have more cans and different stuff. So shout out Rugged. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much how YouTubers make money. There's a lot of other sneaky, breaky, cheeky ways. One thing I heard is that, like, oh yeah, What's Their Face charges $20,000 for a shout out in a video. That might be true. I think it's highly improbable, but if you want to do some quick math and figure out how much YouTubers are making, an easy way of doing that is looking up, and this is open knowledge, you can look this up, but Google, how much does it cost to get 1,000 views on an ad through Google or Meta? Take that equation and go look at the creator's average view rate for the last month and just multiply it and apply it to their channel, and then you can see pretty much how much that creator might be charging for advertisements. And there's different advertisement tiers. Obviously, different creators have different ways of platforming and advertising, but that's just a good idea of how to reverse engineer a creator's income. Again, just trying to be transparent and honest with you guys, and I think we could all use a little transparency and honesty, and also drop the negativity behind, you know, capitalism. Let's just be honest here, guys. You know, if you want to go and start your own YouTube channel and it's interesting and fun, all for it, man. I'm a big proponent of people doing their own things and trying and having hell of a fun time doing it. So we're in it because this is genuinely a passion we have. My wife happens to be really freaking addicted to guns just as much as me. She's like in the competition pistol side, and my wife has a passion for spreading the sport and trying to get more women involved. So, you know, everyone's got a different purpose for starting a channel and for doing these things. You know, I always tell people, do what you love. first. That's the most important, because the money won't come for a long time, and it's not the industry you want to be in to make money. I would be doing different industries if I wanted to just make money, right? But hate doing things just for money. I would rather do something I'm passionate about. Same with my wife. I think we both have burnt out of corporate shillopoly. It's not about the money all the time. It's about doing something that we're passionate about, and then, you know, hopefully can make a living off of, right? So I think that's the American dream, is do what you love and somehow get paid for it. What a concept. What a thing. What a thing to think about. But anyway, go shout out your local creators in the comments below. Let them know that you know, that I know, that we know how much they make, for what that's worth, or for what that matters. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you want more videos on this, we can talk ethics, we can talk moralities, we can talk the worst deals I've ever seen in the... I'm just kidding, I won't fucking name names. But we can talk about whatever you guys want. I've, like I said, had 10 years of marketing experience. Most of that doing like influencer brand deals and stuff like that. Worked with a lot of channels in and out of the space. You know, if you have common sense, you can pretty much figure anything out, guys. I'll just say that. If you got common sense and a basic knowledge of math, you guys can figure all this out. Doesn't really take that much. It's not rocket science. But yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. And if not, you're probably gay, and that's okay. Hopefully your parents know, if they're alive. Take care. Subscribe. Help us get to 1,000. I think we're almost at 1,000, so let's get there. Come on, very nice. 1,000. I don't know. I might do something extreme. Who knows? Might fucking name names. If I get to 1,000, I might fucking name names.